Thank you. For many, many years, I studied bilingualism as a psychologist. And this experience has accumulated my knowledge so I can contribute to the scholarly description of human development, second language learning, and brain plasticity. This exhilarating experience brought me to my position here. And since I joined the ed school 5 years ago, I started to interact with educators. And that is when the applicability of the research that I gained from bilingualism hit a crossroad. So what is this crossroad? In research, we have the research elegance of putting things into buckets. So we put bilinguals in one bucket and we put monolinguals in the other bucket. So that's my logical comparison between groups. But this turns out to be a rather problematic strategy for educators. And here I'm going to do a quick poll. Since I'm not supposed to move around, I'm trying to gain the best comprehensive sight of vision here. So I'm going to ask you guys all a question. You have 3 choices. Your answer could be yes, no, or I don't know. That's the beauty of ignorance. So the question here is, are you a bilingual? Yes? How many of you say no? And how many of you say, I don't know? Very good. So every time I ask this question, it is inevitable that we have people who say, I don't know. It depends on how you define bilingualism. Some of you may say, well, I only speak my second language over the weekend with my grandparents. So I'm one of those weekend bilinguals. Am I a bilingual? I don't know. Some of you may say, well, I typically use one language at home and one language at school. I don't normally talk at home using the language that I speak at school. So am I a bilingual? I don't know. So all these I don't know brought me to think about bilingualism as a life experience, as a continuum. And when you have a continuum and you have to put them into clean categories of buckets, it doesn't quite make sense. So this is when I hit the crossroad of knowledge and application. And it turns out I'm not alone. When I talk to educators, that's exactly how they felt when they looked at research on bilingualism. And so I asked them, so how do you guys figure out what bilingualism is for children in your situation? And it turns out that they don't really look at bilingualism. They look at English proficiency. Now, at least in the United States. Why? Why do they look at English proficiency? Because English proficiency determines how ready a child to learn in an English-speaking classroom. That's what they care about. And I realized there are different levels of this crossroad. At one level, as a researcher, I care about individual differences. In the applicable level, educators care about systems. How do we most conveniently put groups of children into groups so we can provide better service for them? So I hit this crossroad and I'm thinking, what are the possible solutions? One of the solutions that I'm trying to think is requires some of your mental construct. So imagine we have the crossroad of knowledge and application as orthogonal paths, so they're perpendicular to each other, and I'm standing right in the middle. But imagine the paths are non-existent and I'm creating a problem space. And in this problem space, I can very comfortably step out of my researcher zone and I bring in educators to help me to create questions that not only have scientific rigor, but also have meaningful applications for children in the next generation. And here, at least in my experience, I think the lessons I have learned from studying bilingualism as a psychologist and now in a school of education is that, first, think outside of your path. Second, create a problem space that is inclusive. And third, embrace your identity as both a researcher and a practitioner. Thank you.